All right, so this is debatable, or this is pre-debatable, I guess, because we recorded an episode of Debatable before we knew that Tom Brady was going to retire. So I'm prepping you for that. We're going to talk about potentially Tom Brady going to the 49ers. That ain't happening. We also talk a bit about how I don't quite understand Tom Brady, but I feel like I understand him a little bit more today. When the news came down, I was sitting on set, Get Up, and we're like talking about some other thing that's irrelevant. And then we find out Tom Brady's retiring, and we see that heartfelt kind of video and message. And I don't think of myself as all that sentimental, but Tom Brady has been like the defining character, the protagonist of football for the last 20 years or so. And he's been the greatest and most successful player that we've ever seen. So it was a little odd to have him retire and to have all that wash over us, that it is truly the end of an era. I think there was a bit of sadness, which surprised me. It was kind of weird to feel. I think it was just the emotion of seeing him decide to finally let go kind of washed over me and everyone else. But all in all, I think it's a celebratory day. We aren't going into a league that is bereft of quarterbacks. We have lots of great quarterbacks to take over and go forward. And I think it's good for Tom Brady to be able to change, turn to the next chapter. As an athlete who had to transition once before, and obviously nowhere near the success on the field that Tom Brady had, I understand that transitions are tough for anybody, and they're particularly tough for athletes. And we all talk about how we've been football players for so long. It's difficult to then try to redefine yourself as not a football player. For Tom Brady, I think it's probably on another level. The amount of commitment that he showed to this game and how he showed us time and time again that it seemed like there was nothing more important to him than being an NFL quarterback. Those days are over, and all the success that he's had personally has been a part of a team. And he brought that up a number of times, and I talked to a bunch of his teammates and heard from a bunch of his teammates this morning, and he seemed like the consummate team guy. But in this transition, there's no team. Nobody to block for you, nobody to tackle, no one to catch, no one to run the ball, and the challenges of transitioning and redefining yourself as someone after football. This will be the first challenge that Tom Brady faces all by himself, and it's going to be in front of all of us. So I'll be rooting for him. I'm sure most of us will be rooting for him. The one thing that became very obvious to me throughout the course of the day is he was so good for so long that he got everyone's respect, even people of fans of teams and players who he knocked out time and time again and beat over and over again. The way that he did it for as long as he did it, eventually he beat us all into submission and accepting that he is the greatest player of all time. And we all are rooting for him to have success afterwards. So with that, here is actual debatable. Enjoy.
So I mean, we're Team Schefter, obviously. There's a brewing wrap-up reporting like disagreement about the thing we're about to talk about, but I feel like we're gonna be Team Schefter unless you guys have independent information about this deal for Sean Payton that we're about to talk to. Hello,
All
Spencer.
of my
Hello,
information is
Domonique.
independent, Pablo. Comes straight from the fountain of my mind.
Spencer's been painting those little figurines with blood. I don't know if he has them.
Visions of grandeur, visions of Sean Payton and Russell Wilson having to share the same space. That's what I'm high off of right now. Yeah. I look at Domonique, face and hands, just thinking about how insane that conversation's going to be. I'm ready. I'm ready.
I love that they both seem to want this. And Alabaster, I guess we should just start there, right? What is your question before we dive into the fumes?
Pretty simple one here. What's your reaction to the Broncos trading for Sean Payton?
So I'll give you guys the details here. It is a first-round pick in 2023 that Denver is sending to the Saints, as well as a second-rounder in 2024, in exchange for the guy who was portrayed by Kevin James in a Netflix show, and also the third-rounder that the Saints have in 2024. And yes, Russell Wilson in his office is going to invite his head coach in for a nice meaty hug.
Meaty hug. Oh, okay. I didn't know they were doing
meaty hug.
that.
This is, by the way, where I would send Kevin James in and see if Russell Wilson noticed the difference.
So, I mean, I think the clear winner in this is Russell Wilson, if there is anybody who you can consider a winner. I think Russell Wilson's early part of his career, he was kind of the second short quarterback, and Drew Brees was the first.
Mm-hmm.
He was the example that everyone pointed to. Oh, why would you do that? He's the example that everyone pointed to say why other like 6-footish quarterbacks could succeed. And Sean Payton had a lot of success with Drew Brees. I think it's important to remember that Drew Brees was a bit of a reclamation project. He got injured before he got injured in San Diego, they drafted Phillip Rivers. You don't draft a quarterback in the first round unless you're done with the one you got. But then he got hurt, and then no one else really wanted him. He ended up in New Orleans, and Sean Payton and him together created an impressive run. Drew Brees got himself in the Hall of Fame, one of the all-time great quarterbacks, won a Super Bowl for that wonderful, delicious city, New Orleans. And now another undersized quarterback, Russell Wilson, is hoping that his second destination, again, will be made beautiful and successful by Sean Payton. So I think that gives hope to him. I'm not sure if there's going to be a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. Sorry for the
That's
short
a beautiful,
jokes.
but that's a, you know what? I just got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah,
No,
you don't have to tell
I
people that you
needed
got
it.
it. Just like
I
let
needed
it land. Give everyone a second. Land it on them. All right, keep it moving.
I was like Lucky Charms thing. No, I'm just gonna. But Spencer, when you saw this news, what was your reaction? I am curious.
My reaction was, one, I like mess, so this is great. I enjoy potential mess. I do. Because this seems like one of those things where, as Domonique just said, it seems like it makes sense. And that, to me, that's always a great starting point for mess, where we go, hey, we thought this thing would work. We really did. But I got to remind everybody, nobody's the same quarterback or coach as they were 10 years ago. Nobody. The years take their toll. Circumstances change. Leagues change. I kind of wondered on the serious side, not that I don't take mess seriously, because I do. I'm always ready for a good disaster. But I did wonder this. Is any coach worth this kind of draft?
I was going to ask. This seems like a lot.
This seems like a lot. Like, to me, the story of the NFL is always this. It's the triumph of talent over management. That I know there are legitimately great coaches in the NFL. And I'm not saying Nick Sirianni isn't one of them. He really is. But if you'd asked me 4 years ago who that dude was, I would be like, oh, he's somebody they're just going to hire as a manager, right? Now, he's done a better job than just being a manager. Obviously, he's very good at his job.
Sure.
But the point being is that in the NFL, the apparatus is so big that I feel like the role of the coach, especially relative to like college football, it's diminished in terms of value, right? Did I just call the coach the running back of the management class? Maybe. Maybe, because I feel like the idea that somebody can be a Svengali only goes so far. You could be a mentor. You can help develop a player. You could be an organizational genius. But I feel like you can get that a lot of different places, and you need to get it a lot of different places in the NFL in order to be successful. I just wonder if taking that kind of a chunk out of your draft, out of your future, is worth whatever present you're going to be mortgaging for, especially given what you've seen physically from Russell Wilson in this stretch.
Yeah, I mean, the first round pick in football is so hugely valuable. It's not basketball where if you're not in the top 3, and sometimes even in the top 3, you can't really guarantee any success. It depends on that particular draft class. In football, like, there's so many positions, there are always going to be players, and that first pick is where you can hopefully build around a special player who will be cost controlled at lower than his value for quite some time. So yeah, generally I would say no, a coach is normally not worth that, particularly if you're the Broncos, who have already committed a great deal of assets to this quarterback who's failing. But
Right.
if you look at the history of coach trades, like, it's hard
What
to
do we
argue
got?
that they haven't really worked out. So you got
Yeah.
like Don Shula, you got uh, Bill Belichick, you got Parcells. I think Mike Holmgren was traded for. These are all guys who like went on to have great success. And I guess Bill Parcells, or not Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick is the example that you would most point to that say, yeah, that dude was worth what he was traded for and more. So I guess you're hoping that Sean Payton is the same thing. And you can look at Sean Payton's track record. Though he only has 1 Super Bowl, he had the Minneapolis Miracle, cut him short, but they were always like competitive in the playoffs and being around. If they can turn the Broncos into that, I think they'd be happy to trade.
Right. Like, we're a little premature in talking about Super Bowls. The
Yeah.
Broncos would like to become competitive. That's
Yeah.
really where we're at. They would like to get back to the point where they were recognizably a good football team.
Well, I think it's also a team with, as Dominique just alluded to as well, like a team with sunk costs. Like, you're stuck with Russell Wilson, so what do you do with him? And I think this is where the Rapper reporting and the Schefter, there is conflict as we are taping it right now, at least, because Schefter is saying that the D'Amico Ryans hire in Houston is a separate track that did not intersect with the Broncos hiring and paying for Sean Payton via draft picks. Rappaport has been saying that actually the Denver Broncos tried to get D'Amico Ryans not once but twice and preferred him, which would throw water onto the idea that Sean Payton is the perfect solution. But here's the case for Sean Payton as the perfect solution. On top of the success that we've been talking about, 2006 to 2021, I'm just going to read this, right? Without the Bounty Gate 2012 punishment suspension season in there, Sean Payton's Saints were number 1 in yards per game, third down conversion rate, red zone efficiency, total touchdowns scored. We're only second to the Patriots in points per game. Those are not the advanced stats that we all love, but those are a taste of the fact that this guy offensively is essentially unimpeachable, unless I'm missing something when it comes to what Sean Payton cannot do anymore, Spencer, since we last saw him.
Well, there's also this, and I think when you talk about, okay, well, is he demonstrated value? Yeah, he's absolutely demonstrated value. He's also got something now that we're all just going to have to recite together, which is, this is the best solution because they're both in the building. Right. Guess what? That's what we're going to have to decide. Maybe he was the 4th choice. Disagree. He's the first choice now because he's in the building. Who's our first choice at quarterback? The dude that we've already mortgaged half the neighborhood for. That's, whether it's a great idea or not, this has got to be the one that works for this year. I do really wonder, though, I do, if you're dealing with the same kind of quarterback, because we say that Drew Brees was a reclamation project, right? We try to compare everything to the Saints. Yeah, he was a reclamation project. Do we know we knew exactly what was wrong with Drew Brees. He was coming off a shoulder, right? He was coming off of like a potential career-ending injury that I think was one of the first quarterbacks to 100% come back from and end up better than afterwards. Do we know exactly what is ailing Russell Wilson in terms of his style of play? Are we sure it's management?
Yeah,
Are we sure?
So
is it go ahead.
Aside from the Drew Brees Rookie of the Year tale, I think that you could look at this Russell Wilson situation either way and be more encouraged that there is not one glaring thing. But I think what you're suggesting and what I am also feeling is I'd rather know what we're fixing. Because like you could look at Russell and say nothing's wrong with him. He just didn't have the right coach.
There's a lot wrong with him.
Yeah, I know, but I guess I'm saying from a coaching standpoint, I could understand a coach being more scared of a thrower with a bad shoulder than a quarterback who's had a few bad years. So I get it, but I'm scared of Russell Wilson because he's such a unique personality.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's keep in mind that Russell Wilson has done a couple of things of note here. He has publicly complimented Sean Payton in his role as guy with an office in this building. He talked about how he loved being coached by him at the Pro Bowl. It was wizardry that they got to play with. on the field for whatever that's worth, which is probably not a lot. But when you add that to the fact that Russell Wilson's last 2 games last season, after Nat Hackett got canned, were his 2 best games of the season. He had 6 touchdowns across 2 games, looked different for whatever that's worth. You wonder, is that actually a huge, maybe the most important variable, just changing the coach, which is more of a replacement level thing than it is a compliment to Sean Payton necessarily, because Jerry Rosberg, I believe, was the interim. But now, yeah, I do wonder, right? Like Sean Payton has been on this tour where he wore, apparently, Schefter pointed this out, like an orange tie at the desk when he was doing the studio stuff over the weekend. He was lobbying for this job because of the orange thing. We have heard also that Sean Payton has gone on Colin Howard's radio show and basically been like the naked bootleg stuff where they bring Russell Wilson out and they have him stop short and they throw these bombs. He wants to get more into the stuff that he remembers Russell Wilson being good at as a competitor. And I just wonder, is it that simple on some level? Like, is it possible that it was just that bad under Hackett?
It is possible. I am always wary of this because to me, the notion that an NFL team can be fixed with one thing, is that seems ludicrous to me, right? That feels like, and I say this as the sport I primarily cover, and with all due affection, that feels like a college football decision, right? Like, well, we just need to change the culture and get a family vibe. No, yeah. What are the parts? Yeah. What are the parts, and how are they doing? Do you need to replace a part? I think they did need. There's no argument to me, by the way, that they aren't going to be better with Sean Payton. That's right. The part in this equation I have the most faith in, that they will be better with him as a manager. I just think there's more afoot to that, and maybe even organizationally. It's not like the Broncos, to me, have kicked out all of the mold in the house from their previous management and ownership, right? Like that, to me, is also a lingering issue.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that some of the lingering needs to linger longer, because like the one impressive thing about the Broncos last year was that defense. And so if Sean Payton is not bringing his own defensive coordinator, which I'm not sure what his plan is yet, keeping Evero would be a really smart move. He's gone on some head coaching visits, which may have just been people trying to meet their Rooney Rule I guess qualifications, but he's also done a great job with that team or that side of the ball throughout the year. So we'll see what happens with his team. You said, what are the parts? The parts are good. That's the problem, is all the parts are good. They have lots of really good parts, except for the quarterback, we think. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, that's a question mark. By the way,
Stop putting that damn picture up here.
I love it. By the way, shouts out to the defense matters. This is what we always get to. We're talking about offense. We're talking about quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The defense never gets responsibility or credit for being easily a third of the game. Also shouts out to special teams. But that's my favorite football argument. Anytime we get into this, we talk about quarterbacks. Eventually somebody has to come along and go, oh, by the way, the defense is fine. The defense is great.
I do want to pay a compliment also on top of that to the fact that Sean Payton has played this perfectly. If you're Sean Payton coming into a job, I think you want to hear everything we just said, even if Spencer's justified doubts about Sean Payton are embedded in there. Because if he flames out, he's not catching the blame. Like if Sean Payton, if this is terrible, we are not blaming Sean Payton. Sean Payton was a firefighter who tried his best.
Yeah.
That's how we're talking about this.
We're gonna blame Russ.
Yeah. The guy who cares a lot. Yes, we're gonna blame that guy.
Hey, I'm just gonna go ahead and offer on this program a $20 bill, American, guaranteed, from me to whomever runs the wing T against Sean Payton. Because if you'll remember, Sean Payton, when he was away from the Saints, he coached his son's 6th grade Pee Wee team. They faced a wing T team, the prototypical high school offense, runs the ball nearly every single down, and they lost 58-18. Sean Payton consulted, among others, Bill Parcells on how to defeat this Pee Wee team's offense and could not do it. So if you're facing the Broncos next year and you want a $20 bill from me, run the wing T.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. Sean Payton would not want that out there. That part of the show he would not want heard. Yeah, that's embarrassing.
All right, guys, let's move on to another interesting situation. Brock Purdy has a very messed up elbow, and that has put everything in flux with 49ers. What should the 49ers do at quarterback?
So the Brock Purdy UCL thing. Well, I'm going to have to do it because the UCL thing, even though it's like not Tommy John needed sort of UCL stuff, which is good, Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back. I mean, we're doing it, Dominic.
Oh, I thought that wasn't the thing I was saying not to do. Yeah, don't do that, but don't do the guy who Jimmy Garoppolo's job tried to take his job. Don't do either of those. I don't want Brady or Garoppolo talk.
Oh yeah, the Brady talk.
I refuse to. I don't want to. I don't care where he's from. I don't care
He
that
took
he
a
doesn't
photo
want the money.
when he walked into the stadium when he played in San Francisco. He took a photo of like Joe Montana on the wall, subtly, clearly not intended for anybody to repeat. Yeah,
Trey Lance. That's what they like. This is still the future of the franchise. We're talking about the value of picks to your franchise. Trey Lance. That is a dude who still, with his feet, offers more of a threat and changes what you can do in that offense, because suddenly I can run some sort of next level 23rd century triple option if I have on the field at the same time Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and Trey Lance. Not to mention all the other weapons they have like Kittle and Ayuk. You can make them worry. You can make a defense worry in so many different ways if you have that dude out there. I know what you get with Jimmy Garoppolo. Everyone is very familiar with what you get with Jimmy Garoppolo. If you would like to continue to make the same mistakes, you go right ahead. Make new mistakes. Use that pick. Develop this player. Please, I'm begging you. Give him meaningful snaps. Let's hope he doesn't get hurt, and develop this player. That's where the 49ers need to go, because otherwise we've seen what they are with all of the other options.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I introduced the thing to this conversation that I don't want to talk about. So I feel like it's my responsibility to also snuff it out. I'm not sure how Kyle Shanahan and Tom Brady, how they complement each other. I think Kyle Shanahan's like value to the game, to his team, would be similar value that Tom Brady would bring to the team. I think Kyle Shanahan would be at his best with a really physically talented and peak physical condition quarterback, which, as Tom Brady is in peak physical condition for a 45-year-old, he is not going to add another dimension to this running game. And he's also, like, I think what he does well is also some of the things that Kyle Shanahan makes easy for his quarterbacks. The value of Kyle Shanahan is him making the game simple. And the value of Tom Brady is there is not a defense that's complex to him. So bringing them two together, I don't think complements either of their skill sets. So get healthy, Trey Lance, please. Like, that would be a fun experience. Watching Trey Lance and Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, put them all together and let Kyle get freaky.
It does feel also like the advantage.
No, not Aaron Rodgers.
Don't do that. No, but to that point, okay, right? The 49ers do have a sort of a crossroads here, not just on the existential level that Spencer was alluding to before, also on the level of like salary cap stuff, right? Like, you have Trey Lance, you have Brock Purdy, you have these guys who make a combined, single digit in the millions, 7 figures kind of a deal. And then you have a bunch of guys who are going to make 8 figures. And if you don't go for the 8-figure guy, you can afford all sorts of fun stuff to build out the rest of your team. And I don't think the Niners are that optimized to the point where like they can afford to, overpay at quarterback. And they're going to need like 6 quarterbacks this season anyway.
Yeah, this just seems to be how things are, right? So go ahead, stock up on them, and don't necessarily go to the vintage premium aisle. I've had enough vintage premium quarterback. Okay? Like they're cool, right? And they were cool. But I'm tired of this being American presidential election, where you're like, let's run this person for a third time.
But he looks like a president. He looks like a quarterback.
He just looks like a winner out there, don't you? Like, unless you're going to call the zone read with Tom Brady, which I want. I want to see that in the world, but I'm a bad person, so we're not going to do that, okay? Put Trey Lance out there, embrace the future, and let some other team hit the hook and swallow the bait on Rodgers or Tom Brady.
Oh man, I don't know. Poor Tom. I want Tom to be happy. I want him to want.
He's fine.
He's not fine, Spencer.
I don't think he's fine.
Spencer. Spencer.
He's fine.
No, he's not, Spencer. No, he's not.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Spencer.
He's got tons of money.
Spencer.
No,
Spencer.
Relative to the general population, you will not get many of them finding much sympathy with Tom Brady right now.
Spencer. I don't want
Tom
them-
Brady.
so go ahead.
Tom Brady doesn't want to get hit, but he definitely has a wall with a hole in it that he hits all of the time.
I have trouble when I cannot. I don't have to agree with people's choices, but when I can't understand them in the slightest, I have trouble saying they're fine. Like a man who's won 7 Super Bowls and has hundreds of millions of dollars in a contract worth hundreds of $millions wait for him to do, and he said, nah, give me a second. I don't know what the F I'm gonna do right now. F and do it what I F and do it. That angry man who you said is fine, it's not fine. You can't be that angry when you have that much and do things that make no sense and go back out there and put yourself in harm's way. That ain't fine, Spencer.
That should have been the question on the card. Is Tom Brady fine?
Is Tom Brady fine? See, I feel like you can hear me. I'm holding back a little bit because I feel like if I push Domonique over that cliff, the discussion that we can have about whether Tom Brady is fine, that's 3 hours. That is a 3-hour discussion.
I'm kind of, you know what? Let's have it.
Someone explain to me why he would do anything that requires him to put on a helmet and get hit next season. If you can explain that to me in a way that makes logical sense to me, I'll be like, he's fine.
Hey, listen, in this midlife crisis, I can help him negotiate this. What he needs to do is he needs to get a hobby. This could all be fixed with a hobby. That's it. Get into something embarrassing, okay? Get yourself out there, all right? Who knows? You know what? I've heard pickleball.
That's it.
I've heard pickleball's fun.
The most dangerous game.
The most dangerous game. If he wants to be the prey, ethically, that would be
there
fine
we
with
go.
me.
That's
Right?
essentially what he's choosing to do.
If he needs the thrill of being chased, all right, but he really wants to risk it all, there you go. Most dangerous game, but if you have to, okay? I think pickleball's a much safer bet. I think you should go do that. People seem to enjoy it.
Oh, so in conclusion, Tom Brady is either going to hunt or be hunted for sport.
He's fine, guys.
Yeah, he's fine.
So before we move on, just a couple hypothetical little fake trades here.
Oh, gosh.
Why don't the 49ers trade Trey Lance and 2 first-round picks for Lamar Jackson? Imagine what it would look like.
Oh, the first of, I can just tell many fake trades Alabaster's going to give throughout the course of the show.
Normally,
do they
against the fake
have
trade?
Do
I'm
they
against
have
the fake
first round
trade
picks
industry.
to trade at this point? Because
Do they?
I mean, they traded
I
them
don't
all
know.
to get
It's like
Trey Lance.
2030 or something.
I love it.
Okay, so my job is to hit the button because that's what I do. I'm hitting the button.
You're always the yes button.
I'm just gonna hit the yes button. That's a
I
go.
guess the test of I wake up, my phone has an alert, and it says Trey Lance has been traded along with 3 first-round picks in 2055
Oh yeah,
for Lamar Jackson.
I'm
I'm pretty psyched about
Yeah,
that day
I'm
of
excited.
work, honestly.
It's hard not to get
Yeah.
excited about
Press the button.
putting them
Press the
together.
button.
Yeah, let's do it. We just traded it. Call John Lynch somebody. I'll give him a call.
It's done. Also, every Baltimore Ravens fan who's been around for longer than 10 years, you know what they're thinking? We could get back to basics, baby. 13-10. That's what we can do. Defense first. Run this ball. Rookie quarterback who throws the ball 10 times a game. We're here. Let's go. Not a rookie, but a young
That was
one.
Rusher.
Might as
Yeah.
well be a rookie.
We can move on. I was also going to ask you about landing spot for Daniel Jones because he would be fun being fast there.
Ooh.
But I want to ask you about Bryce Young. There are reports that he wants to get to 210 by the combine, but he's never been above 194 pounds. Are you concerned that Bryce Young is too small?
I love this topic. This is Spencer, I'm glad you're here for this topic.
Mhm.
Is Bryce Young swole enough? Is the question we are asking today on Debatable.
Well, it depends. Do we want Bryce Young to go through what a lifter would call the dirty bulk? Do we want him to go through the cheesecake bulk? Do we want Bryce Young
Ooh.
showing up
Yeah.
looking a little chunky to his draft appointments? Okay, he wants to get 210. If you're a hard gainer, if you're the kind of person who has a very difficult time gaining weight, 210 off of a 16-pound gain from 194. Domonique, you can speak to this since, unlike me, you have difficulty gaining weight.
Yeah, I am what they call a hard gainer, apparently,
Yeah.
in the lifting world.
Mm.
His frame is his frame, guys. I got my weight up pretty high for the combine, and then I threw up all the water that I drank before I got on the scale. Like,
I love this story.
he's been in college for a long time. He's been trying. If he's been around football like me, people have been telling him to gain weight since he was, I don't know, 12 years old, and he's been doing my guess is he's been doing everything he can. And I assume they have a pretty good training table down in Alabama. Training table is where they feed the football players. I'm guessing they have a pretty intense strength and conditioning program down there at Alabama. I'm pretty sure that you're going to get what you're going to get. Is like he's been a professional football player for quite some time. So like him entering the NFL is not going to change that unless there is some puberty, unless he hits a second puberty, guys.
Ooh.
This the player you're going to get. So I think it's unlikely, no matter how much weight he puts on at the combine, it should not change your assessment of how big he is because he's just going to go throw it up afterwards like I did.
God, that would be such a. By the way, we were talking. The place where Bryce Young really should end up is Denver, right? Because he's a kind of undersized quarterback who would be a blank slate for Sean Payton to work with. Like in another world, that's a beautiful picture, putting the two of them together. But even with his leadership, I don't think you're going to get any heavier than you're going to get living in Alabama. Like, that's it. They've got a cookout. All right. Calories are not the issue there. I understand that they have some worries about his ability to take punishment just from like a raw, like power on power, mass on mass kind of thing, right? You want a quarterback to be a little more solid. The truth is, he's going to grow into that. But to do that right now, it just seems like forcing the issue on a good thing that you should probably just take at face value.
Well,
right?
this is my question though, is like, what are we actually concerned about? Let's be specific about what it means to be too small, because we just talked about a story in which half dozen quarterbacks got injured for all sorts of reasons. And so is it about injury prevention, or is it about like seeing over the O-line? Like, what are we actually talking about here?
Well, I mean, getting fatter is not going to make him like taller.
I think
it's not like I went to McDonald's and I grew 3 inches.
I think we're at a point. I think we're at a point now where we understand that players who aren't tall have found ways to work around it. So, like, you've seen these players back when Russell Wilson was first coming in the league. It was a little bit different, and over the years, it's changed. We've had shorter quarterbacks find success. They find lanes to throw to. They get them out of the pocket. They figure it out. While that you'd love to have a 6'5" quarterback, I don't think that's stopping people from drafting him. But I think his frame does, and people are concerned about him taking wear and tear. And to your point, Pablo, I guess you could look at it either way, where you're like, well, see what happens to these 220-pound guys. What's going to happen to him? Or it's happening to the 220-pound guys. It's going to happen to him too. So, like, I don't know. You tell yourself whatever you tell yourself. If he falls to you in the draft, you convince yourself that, it's not going to be a problem. And if he doesn't, if you're not able to get up high enough to get him, then you're like, man, he was too small anyway.
I have an excuse. It does bear mentioning that he is very good at risk management as a quarterback, even among his elite peers. He is not somebody who takes unnecessary hits. He is not diving head first. You will not have to teach him a lot of the things that other quarterbacks have had to learn about. You see that linebacker who's coming after you in college, you were able to bowl him over. In the NFL, that's going to put you in the hospital. No, you do not have to teach Bryce Young those things. He's been very good. He has been practicing against the Alabama defense for the better part of his career. So, chances are he's familiar with what at least an NFL size player looks like. Maybe not at every position, but a lot of them end up in the bigs too. So I'm not as worried about this. This just feels like we have too much time to think about the little things that aren't exactly right with every player because it's the NFL draft.
Domonique and Spencer, both of you guys, I feel like, are among ESPN employees exceptionally equipped to talk about how much weight a person could put on if they needed to as fast as possible. Like, what are we talking here? Like, if you were to counsel as a corrupt personal coach Bryce Young into actually being as swole as he could possibly be, what could we get him to, do you think, like the day before the measurements at the combine?
Well, water weight's going to be your friend. So you're going
Yeah.
to want to make sure you're carrying as much water weight as possible. You drink as much water as possible. We need to go ahead and make sure that you're ingesting a lot of salt, so you're picking all that up.
Ooh.
Additionally, I can tell you what the old school 1990s Michigan plan for gaining weight was, and that was to eat an entire large pizza right before you went to bed. It just so happens that one of the most common and commonly available foods in America is also a wonder when it comes to gaining weight, and that would be delivery pizza. So delivery pizza, cheesecake, and water, buddy, and
Well,
lay off the cardio.
I think Spencer, I have to push back on the pizza because as someone who has trouble gaining weight, I know that eating a lot more food and when you have a fast metabolism just means you take bigger. Like, that's all that happens. That's all that happens, guys. So, like, yes, if you eat it just before you get on the scale, and I think I was able to put on about 10 pounds of water just before I got on the scale.
So you're just
I
literally
think-
chugging before you get on the thing.
So, yeah, I think my playing career in college was like from high 160s to like high 170s. And so then after that, you go work out enough to try to put on a little bit more weight. You put on 3-4 more pounds of muscle. And that's the most you can do in that time period while you're also training for other things. And then you just drink a bunch of water because you don't work out on the same day that you get weighed in. So you drink a bunch of water on that day and put about 10 pounds on. You got people thinking you 190, 195 maybe. Just gotta, hey. You lie to them, tell them you are a little bit lighter. You could put a few on and then you get drafted and then you show up 175.
I'd also advise, if he could, turn 30 or 40. That would be good. If you can turn 30 or 40 before the draft, that's really going to help you.
I was gonna say,
almost 40.
I've been I've been Domonique's playing weight in my life for a long time, eating only pizza, and now the plan has backfired, guys. It's just pre-diabetes
has
now.
failed.
It turns out it's the problem, medically speaking.
Man. Don't they got weight loss pills? They don't have weight
Oh
gain pills?
yeah, wait, what's the one the Kardashians are on?
Or shots?
allegedly?
Or something?
You know what it
Ozempic,
is.
right?
Oh,
That's the one.
Ozempic, yeah.
They do have weight gain pills. They're called sirloins. Sirloins. Keep crushing those, Daddy. You'll get there.
What are they testing for these days?
Not
Moving on.
sirloin. Clean weight gain drug.
I told you, Spencer.
Alpha pills. Yeah.
Cheesecake bites.
Nothing. That ain't nothing but big dookies. Just big poops. That's all it is. I used to eat 2 burritos for every meal. 2
No,
loaded
that's on you though. That's
Chipotle
on you.
burritos.
That is not a low. That's not a low residue meal.
That's
a
throwing
high residue
food
meal.
down a water slide. I agree.
Oh yeah, I used to be going after those calzones. There's a place called Ratsy's right off campus. Double up them thick calzones, eat them up. Then double cheeseburgers, 2 double cheeseburgers, with mumbo sauce. Oh, I used to be stuffing
That's
it
why
in.
That's why you ran a 4.3. You were sprinting to the bathroom.
He was running. he was
reps.
running a lot in all sorts of ways. Yeah,
Oh, that's a gross way to end our time with Spencer.
but appropriate.
Bye, Spencer. We love
Goodbye.
you. We miss you. Dead Wrong is the name of the song, Pablo.
I'm glad I didn't know it.
Are you? Why?
I feel like if I only knew Eminem and missed all your references, it would have been a bad look for your boy.
Your boy is a bad look for your boy.
Okay, noted. Okay, didn't feel good coming out. To be honest.
Yeah, you could tell. You could tell. Halfway
All
through
right,
the year.
let's
That's
just
like when
stop talking about
that's like when you
Israel
accidentally say
Gutierrez.
chow and you realize that
Guys-
that doesn't sound as good coming out of my mouth.
Cut all of that. Izzy's here.
Oh,
We're here to talk about
gosh.
the NBA. I wish that had never been captured at any form of tape. Alabaster, where are we starting?
Trade season, guys. Which NBA team needs to make a move most before the deadline?
Ooh, a nice open-ended NBA potpourri question, almost as if the Super Bowl is already over. I have an obvious, perhaps, answer to this question, and it is the Phoenix Suns. And I say that because the whole Jay Crowder thing, it's becoming, I guess, a thing that's going to be resolved, but it hasn't. Jay Crowder had complained about playing time. He was going to lose his starting job. He didn't want to show up to camp. He never showed up to camp. The Suns, who are about to be sold, by the way, which informs the timeline on all of this now, were like, we'd prefer it if you weren't around, actually. And so here you have this 3-and-D guy not playing for a team that's about 500, that is good enough, ostensibly, per last year, to be in the NBA Finals. And that is the piece they got to move to actually improve the team that they have in the present tense that is actually playing for them. And so, yes, I believe the Phoenix Suns are a good answer here.
All right, Domonique. So Pablo's answer was super exciting. Trading a guy who hasn't played yet this year for a team that's been all over the place. I think there's sexier answers than that. What do you got?
I mean, I have been, I guess, corrupted by the sports media complex, and I know the right answer to this question.
Oh, God.
The right answer to this question is wherever LeBron is. We need to get the Lakers in the playoffs. Like this, we got the Cowboys all the way to the divisional round this year. It was great for us. Now we need to figure out how we can get the Lakers back to the finals. And I've watched them play, and their best game of the year was a loss to the Celtics. So we need to figure something the hell out and get some bodies to Los Angeles. Stat for ESPN.
I was going to give you a hard time about that.
Not Amari
Domonique,
Stoudemire, by the way. Not Stat. Not that guy, but someone else.
No, not
Stat.
that guy.
Yeah.
I was going to give you a hard time about that, but I don't think I've been more entertained by a game than when LeBron James was giving me the Stella or whatever it was. And you had Patrick Beverley getting the technical there. So I think maybe that's not a bad answer, although I've seen a couple of trade rumors where Patrick Beverley is involved, and I don't think anybody wants that. He needs to stay put. We need to keep all that fun in LA. But I know it's sexier than Jay Crowder, but what do you guys think of D'Angelo Russell being on the move? And here's where I'm going to sell you on this one, okay? Like, I know that Minnesota hasn't lived up to everything that we thought they were going to be with Rudy Gobert, at least not early in the season. They've been really good lately. And Anthony Edwards has been really, really good lately. Almost as much as he doesn't need like a D'Angelo Russell next to him. He needs more of a spot shooter next to him. But frankly, he's on an expiring contract. He wants to get paid again. So it would be probably better for him to go to a team that can, give him starters minutes and sort of showcase him a little bit more to his strengths. I think it just makes sense for Minnesota because they can also sort of maybe get back a first rounder. Don't laugh at me or don't roll your eyes. I think Miami Heat have been tied to some D'Angelo Russell talk, and that's actually a pretty good fit for Miami, who needs another shot creator on the perimeter. But yeah, I do think that
who is that Russell good for?
What do you mean? Who's that good for? I think that's a move that will not only improve Minnesota, who has been better since, basically since Cat went down, but it'll improve vastly whichever team he goes to, assuming it's a contender that needs a point guard like the Clippers or the Heat.
So it's addition by subtraction for the Wolves?
They get something back. First of all, they probably got to get a first-round draft pick out of it, but you get back a point guard. Like, look, I don't know what they think about Kyle Lowry. Okay,
y'all trying to dump Kyle Lowry on people.
Kyle Lowry is more guard you would need in Minnesota than D'Angelo Russell. Why are we going here? See, you started with Jay Crowder.
My slumber was broken. That was me trying to snore. It was broken by the transparent Heat culture agenda that just entered here.
No, I'm sorry, Izzy. You're right. It's unfair. What you came up with was better than what Pablo came up with, but I expect more from you, Israel.
I got more. I'm just starting with Minnesota, a team that's been really good lately.
Can I retract my original answer, or do you have something here? Because I actually now I feel self-conscious, and I could definitely beat Izzy's answer if you give me a mulligan. But what do you got?
Go for it. I'll give some fake trades afterwards. But
all right, okay. Rewind, cut my answer. We'll cut it in post. Perfect. Great.
No,
3, 2, 1. Luka Doncic needs help.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic, the next LeBron James, cannot be left alone on this island. Who's the second best player in the Mavericks? Nobody knows. And that's a problem.
Cussing punctuation. Good move.
That's the problem, Pablo. And it's actually great for you to bring them up, because I do think that there's a player who might be a good fit there. And that's Pascal Siakam. If somehow they can put together a trade offer for the Raptors, who are probably going to give away a piece or two so that they can sort of rebuild a little bit, reframe,
floating out there,
OG
right?
as an option. But I would think Pascal's a guy who can, first of all, like OG, defensive player first, not first, but defensive player also. And Pascal can give you sort of a lot of off-the-ball action, a lot of fast break stuff. Basically, fill in the gaps where Luka is not handling the ball all the time. No, the question being the team that needs the most, going into the trade deadline, and it's teams that are like the Lakers need the most, but they're not going to get that this trade deadline, right? So you look at the Clippers, a team that actually was the favorite in the Western Conference going into the season. Like, they should be looking to make an improvement. Look at Kawhi's minutes all of January. I think he only had one where it was like less than 31 minutes. And so if you're convincing yourself that we've got Kawhi back, then you better get yourself a point guard. Maybe Kyle Lowry reunion. I don't know. But you better get yourself a point guard because right now you've got Terrence Mann doing that. And so maybe Fred VanVleet. Like that seems to be the most obvious home run of a trade. And no, it's not as sexy as the Lakers. But when we talk about, a team in Toronto that was supposed to be good and Fred VanVleet being a championship point guard, going to a team that is supposed to, at least compete for a championship, that's a big name trade. So for me, the trade deadline isn't about the big names necessarily changing. It's these, the medium names that make those big names, hey, real championship contenders, which is why I think the team that probably has to make a move on top of the list is the Denver Nuggets.
Oh, okay.
Denver Nuggets. Like they need to probably move Bones Highland, who's a talented player, probably just not a great fit there, very explosive, just not a great fit there, and get themselves a defensive-minded player, whether it be front court or back court, like Alex Caruso or Jacob Poeltl. Like, I know those aren't the sexiest names, but, I mean, you can imagine a Denver Nuggets team out there with Alex Caruso causing a lot of havoc, adding to whatever Nikola Jokic does on the offensive end. Like, that seems like it's a difference maker and a lot of fun to watch, too. So I think that's probably my number one answer that I saved for last is the Denver Nuggets need to make a move.
Nice. I like that. I mean, I think that sorry, go ahead, Pablo.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm so glad. I thought Izzy was going to say the Miami Heat 100% there. I was
I
shocked.
can, but you won't listen. So I won't even mention that they, need some help as a perimeter playmaker. I probably shouldn't mention that they need some help at the power forward position, even just for some depth. But I probably shouldn't mention that they're getting healthy anyway, and they're probably shooting numbers are going to roll back up, progress to the mean, and they'll be fine. So it really doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah, they're going to be better than the Bucks and the Celtics and the 76ers come playoff
Only
time.
if they get Pablo's coveted Jay Crowder.
I was going to say, we got to move on to the next
possibility.
topic because I believe the answer to who gets OG Anunoby is actually the Phoenix Suns in exchange for Jay Crowder and a bunch of picks. So let's get out of this before we get to the real low red level of the name recognition scale.
I just shivered thinking about Mikal Bridges and OG locking down the perimeter. Fearsome duo.
a Chris Matthews thrill up your leg. Yeah.
Truly. Next one with the NBA. Are 40 and 50-point games losing their luster for you in the NBA?
Yeah. I'm not proud of this.
Really?
But this is how human psychology works, Izzy. Like I've seen too many of them to stop and pay attention in the ways that each of these individual performances, like objectively, I understand, are supposed to impress me. And it just keeps happening. And we did an episode of ESPN Daily about it where we sort of like post-mortem some of the theories as to why it's happening. Ball hogging, I guess, is the most succinct, like layman's term. Translation of heliocentric basketball improving on top of pace and space and all of the three-point stuff in the NBA. But it's like no hitters in baseball to me. It's like there are just so many of them because people have figured out things about how to do this job really well that I can't possibly be blown away by it. I wish I could lie to you, but I, as you know, can only tell the truth on this particular show.
Ball hogging is your main theory on all the scoring, not more skilled players. All right, Domonique.
Oh, I didn't realize that we set up this second half of the show as us rolling out our takes for Izzy to judge. But
I know.
I'm shocked by them, so I need to take it all in before I can actually respond.
I agree with Pablo, and I think that honestly, it's not even a debate. Like, yeah, part of what makes things valuable is scarcity, and no one can argue that there aren't more now than there was before. Like I remember, and damn, I'm old because
who you about
growing
to say?
Growing up, 40-point games was a big deal. 50-point games was amazing.
It was
something that like rarely happened. And now we just saw that little list right there. That was just all in the past couple weeks. We had a bunch of 40 and 50-point games. So like it's hard for me even to keep up. Like social media doesn't even react the same way. There was one point
week
where even in the course of this season, we reacted more aggressively early in the season to 50-point games than we do now. And so I exist in this atmosphere where no one is as excited as they used to be. So yeah, it's losing a little luster. Doesn't mean it's less impressive. It doesn't mean it's not like they're not good. It's just it's hard to think an eclipse is cool if it happens every night. It's like
I mean,
it is
what
it
cool.
is.
Eclipses are never cool. But let me start here. Like, first of all, when I
much
sort
cooler
of
than 40
had my
game.
thought process for this question, it was only 50-point games was the question in my mind. Maybe I just read that wrong. But the thing is, how many of those games that you guys saw on that list were you actually watching?
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
Because to see the stat line and be less impressed by it is not the same as, to me, losing their luster. Because if I've been to a zillion NBA games, very few have I seen 50-point performances. Very few. I can maybe think
He
of
got
like
us,
3.
Pablo. He got us.
And so the actual luster of a 50-point game is still there, especially if
He
you're
got us.
watching it. Like those are the most entertaining games when you guy's about to, and you know he's going off. Especially
Well
somebody
well
like Luka when he
played.
gets an 18-point quarter.
Well played, Judge Israel. The Judge Israel show. Man, that's you played us just right with the you don't watch the games. You got me. Cause you know what's going on right now? The damn NFL playoffs, Israel. Got time
And
for your
plus,
50-point game.
there's this
I
other
know.
show. It's a zombie show, but it's like the best zombie show that I'm in on right now. Like when I get an alert on my phone, I'm watching like The Last of Us episode 3. Just beautiful television, beautiful, poetic.
If you want to talk about
It's
the
hard to
randomness
switch.
of the players, right? Like, oh, you've seen a 50-point game from such and such. You know what? I kind of like those. Bring back the days. Tony Delk had a 50-point game.
Oh, I remember Tony
Corey
Delk.
Brewer.
00
Peter,
Delk.
Corey Brewer had a
Corey Brewer.
51-point game, and I would have given my life to just be flipping through League Pass when he was at like 17
I
and
hope
catch
that's
the rest of that
hyperbole.
game.
Yeah,
hope
I
you
want
really
you
wouldn't
to-
want to die to see that.
You are
I
loved,
almost died.
Izzy.
I almost died
You
watching
are
him play.
loved.
I'll tell you that story in a second. Go
Don't
ahead, Charlie.
give your life for Tony Delk games.
I mean, to be fair, Izzy, Sadiq Bey did drop a 50 burger, so it's still happening with the Tony Delks of the world. But I have a question for all of you. Would you rather watch a 50-point NBA game or a running back go for 150 yards in a football game? Because there are only 15 of those this season, and we're getting 1.2 50-point games every single week in the NBA season, which is going to go on for like 5 more months.
50-point game every time. Unless you tell me that it's going to be like very specific run, like Barry Sanders or Derrick Henry. Those are the only two.
I have to agree with Izzy on there. I mean, I guess there's a chance that you could get a Shaq 50-point game where it's all dunks, which still would be pretty awesome. Or you could get like a Steph Curry 3. The only bad 50-point game you could get is like a James Harden 47 free throw 50-point game. But I think there are some other possibilities for 150-yard games. You could have one long run, or you could have like 50 short runs, and it's like less enjoyable. I feel like I feel safer saying that I would enjoy the 50-point NBA game rather than a bunch of 3 yards of the cloud of dust.
I will squeeze in 2 very long runs in between like zombie near death scenes on Last of Us. I'll totally do that. But it's
Did you want to hear the story of me nearly dying watching Corey Brewer play?
I do. You actually did almost.
I don't know. I feel like I might have
this.
told this story, but it definitely required an ambulance and a hospital trip. But I was, it was my first year out of college. I was covering the Marlins. I got the mumps from Antonio Alfonseca during spring break.
Wait.
And
another story.
The guy with 6 fingers?
12. Yeah, he apparently went to the DR, the off season of the Dominican Republic, the off season of 2000, before the 2000 season, and came back with a strain of the mumps that a lot of players and some media got. And I went to a doctor who didn't tell me to take anti-inflammatories. He just said drink a lot of fluids. So I got swollen up like I had 2 faces, and I was quarantined in my house, my apartment.
What a way!
And this happened to coincide, and this is not a lie. This happened to coincide with the Florida Gators Final Four run of 2000. And actually, so I take that back. It's not Corey Brewer. It wasn't Corey Brewer. It was the previous set it was Mike Miller. Mike Miller nearly killed me here. Sorry, reframe the story. Mike Miller nearly killed me. He hit a game winner in the first round. You remember against Butler, a little, tough couple of bounces and in. And I, on my couch, not recognizing my situation, stood up so quickly and immediately went, yes, and then went, holy and like my entire face felt like it was about to blow up. And so the only thing I could do, I sat back down.
No.
I couldn't stand the pain. I called an ambulance. And basically, when I got to the hospital, they told me, hey, that doctor was an idiot. You should have been taking anti-inflammatories this whole time. And number 2, that was your glands inflamed pressing against your eardrums that was causing all that pain. And they would have burst if you didn't come here, which is not a big deal. It just would have hurt a lot, and you would have like felt some fluid coming down your ears. But yeah, I'm glad you came in when you did. And I got back home and I watched the rest of the Final Four run and didn't have to go to work. How about that?
So for the record here, Mike Miller did have 2 career 40-point games. So still works.
well played. The mumps? Man, I
The
thought we got
mumps, man.
vaccinated for
It's
that.
crazy. I did. I mean, there was some special mumps out in the DR.
Oh yeah, those Alfonseca mumps.
Oh yeah.
Measles,
Speaking of
mumps,
special.
and rubella. I remember getting those shots.
Mhm.
Wait, are those Eminem lyrics?
Oh man, who done it time?
Oh, we have a game. Thankfully, we have a non-eardrum bursting, non-glandular game.
We are going to do some whodunit. For the record, guys, I can't believe you don't want to see, Ezekiel Elliott run the ball 47 times for 150 yards. It's crazy, but I digress. All right, moving on to whodunit. I will read you a quote. You guys have a minute to come together and tell us all whodunit.
Who done it?
First one. There are 2 levels to be unlocked here, and I have to stay locked in to unlock those levels. I'm not unlocking them right now, and it's okay. But there are more levels to unlock, and right now I'm not touching that level, and it irritates me. Your choices are Jason Tatum, Ja Morant, Giannis, or Nikola Jokic.
Man, I don't know the answer to this.
I don't either. I think I want to rule out Jokic because he doesn't feel like the guy that you're irritated or say that he's irritated or admit that he's
true.
irritated.
That's true.
So I'm gonna go with.
But also,
one-
this suggests that this person does not have a mastery of the English language or know
Also
other
true.
words other than locked. But I
Who
feel
would
like
say-
Giannis has already unlocked all the locking levels.
But he's
like,
balling right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He
why
has
would
2
he
more
say that?
levels. Giannis has 2 more levels.
It
No,
can't be Giannis.
just on the level
It's
of,
gotta
of,
be Ja.
of rationality. Can't
Yeah,
be Giannis.
it feels like Ja, because Jason
Tatum or
Tatum
Ja?
doesn't seem like someone who will be talking about all the levels that he needs to unlock. But I don't know.
Levels.
All right.
There's several different
so-
levels to unlocking levels.
Oh, man, there's so many levels here. I'm gonna go. I
And it
think Ja.
irritates me.
I think the irritation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Ja. I'll go
All right,
Ja.
we'll trust you. We're going with you.
All right, final answer.
What?
Oh.
There's more. I should have trusted the
We
English
should have
language.
gone with the English thing for sure.
Yeah, man. So
So
hold
what
on.
are
What-
his next level.
I guess he's not playing as well as he can play right now. Like he's not playing at finals level, but
He
that would
isn't.
require him to hyperextend his knee and then score 40 points, right? I don't know what other levels there are for Giannis, but I hope.
Speaking
I
of
hope to
levels,
see it.
I think Charlie's having a little bit of fun with Ja, Giannis, Jason Tatum. We could have gone joke. We could have gone with any of them and been right. We just went with one syllable.
And you
Man,
know what?
frankly.
What Giannis does need help with levels wise is his jumper because it's trash. He's shooting 27% from three. So that I guess is a level.
I don't think we can do any better than that.
All right, guys.
Speaking of Eminem, you can make anything rhyme.
Yeah.
Nice jump pass, and we can move on to the next one.
Well done. Well done.
I was not surprised about the All-Star voting. I think it's well documented that I'm not very liked. And your choices are James Harden, Trae Young, Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, or George Santos.
He's resigned from
Yeah.
committees today. What else do you need?
George Santos,
mean,
that is.
George Santos did. Yeah. Embiid
uh,
on all of the House committees still.
If that's your real name.
yes.
This
I mean,
is- this is-
it feels
this is a
Trey
tough one,
Youngish to
too.
me. It feels Trey
Okay,
Youngish.
okay.
Like James Harden
Mm-mm.
wouldn't say that. Joel Embiid.
Who had issues with the All-Star voting? Who was
Yeah,
not an
that's
All-Star
fair.
starter and should be? It's Joel Embiid. So that would make the most sense. But I feel like I don't know. We might be getting.
I don't think of
play
Joel
honest here.
Embiid as not being very liked, but
No, but he likes. You know what? He likes to. He does like to be victimized.
okay, I like it. I like
as
it.
a matter of his sort of rap. He's under respected.
Let's go
I
D
think
then.
his well documentation is basically finishing second in the MVP twice. Like that's what
Right.
his well documented that people don't like him.
It's true. It's true. He's aggrieved.
Yeah.
Man, I was not surprised. I think it's well documented that I'm not, well liked, and that's cool. I don't know if it's because I troll a lot or I guess I'm an asshole, but it's cool.
Probably for those reasons, honestly. He probably nailed it. I think he nailed it with the rest
We
of
spent
the
about
quote.
15 minutes just drooling over Joel Embiid on the CJ McCollum podcast that is going to drop on Thursday.
He's so good.
And I think that he is probably going to make his way to the top of the MVP ladder before this is all said and done, or this season anyway. And how could you not think that you're liked when you give me the thrusts and celebration
Yes,
that give you
that was
so
like,
many
you're
thrusts.
fined for. You are fined for, and you're doing it for the people. Like, no, Joel, we love you, man.
Well, and he
Don't
just
hold
dropped
the
47.
MVP voting against him, against
And,
us.
and to your point is he just dropped 47 on Jokic, and although we just established that none of us give a crap about 47 points, that was objectively the most impressive performance in that game against the Nuggets.
Nobody remembers that game because several hours later, Patrick Beverly gave a camera to a
Oh.
referee and said,
Oh,
"Look at
yeah,
this."
that's right.
Magnificent. So since the plug your own podcast portion of this program has begun, I would like to say from one to another, Joel Embiid, you can listen to my podcast where I'm always.
That wasn't even a segue. That was
also great
that was
timing when he says from one to another, and Charlie shows two closed fists. What are you mistaken for?
Bungs.
I will say, great.
Bing bung.
It's a great podcast. Dominique is very kind on it all the time. You should
Yeah.
listen. Dominique Foxworth show featuring me.
It's a good
All right. I got another quote. You won't go and look at my stats and say this guy's a surefire Hall of Famer, but if you know the game of basketball and you look at the game of basketball, then I think I have a case. And your choices are Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, John Wall, or Andre Iguodala.
I mean,
Again, just
everybody's
really
going to the Hall of
good,
Fame.
really good questions here because it is again hard to tell who is.
Yeah,
saying
I
these
mean,
quotes.
I think it's just so John Wall is the only one who.
There's no way it's John Wall.
Yeah, he's the only one who I think could possibly not make the NBA or the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame. Well, I guess it's not even Pro Basketball Hall of Fame; it's just the Basketball Hall of Fame, right? Because
Yeah,
they
the
put college
Globetrotters are
people in
in
too.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
I
entirety
was
of the
just
Harlem
saying
Globetrotters.
mostly because of the quote. If you really look at the game, John Wall hasn't been there for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's
I
going to make
think-
that argument.
Yeah, I think that's the only one we can eliminate. Rudy Gobert,
good
like
point.
I think, I mean,
Not yet. Not yet.
he's definitely a
Yes
Hall of
and
Famer.
no.
What do you mean? I don't think he's. I'm not sure that he said this, but Rudy Gobert is absolutely the Hall of Famer.
I don't think he is yet.
I think he
No.
already has the resume, and when you project,
Yeah.
he's probably going to be a
Really?
lock. But yeah, I mean, you think
Yeah,
of like
the
how many,
NBA or the
how many
Pro
All-Star
Basketball
games
or
so
the
far
Basketball
for
Hall of
Rudy?
Fame. No, I keep it up. he's been Defensive Player of the Year. He's like
Yeah, it's been very
Yeah,
good
I think
defensive.
The French
Draymond-
national team has been a huge part, and the All-Star numbers are always what like sort of the threshold for me is like 5. If you made 5, you're a lock. If you made 5, you're practically a lock for the All-Star.
the threshold for you is 5. The
Hall
threshold
of
for the
Fame.
NBA is 1. Get one
So-
get one All-Star game. We're putting you in a Hall of Fame.
I think
So-
my answer is D.
Okay, yeah, it's either Andre or Draymond. I
Yeah.
agree.
No,
I think Draymond's a lock for the Hall of Fame
Rudy,
anyway.
It's Rudy or Andre.
Ooh. Okay,
Yeah, it's
Andre
gotta
is the
be
answer
Andre.
then.
What?
Oh, there it is.
How is that
Wow.
even a question? I thought that was surefire.
Draymond.
Underestimating himself there.
I mean, I
have
guess-
a case.
I guess
I
because
mean-
we do rely on stats so much for that, he doesn't put up great stats. But I feel like your All-Star threshold, he has to meet that. But he's
Definitely.
been
Okay,
thought
wait,
of
here's a
as
fun game.
key-
Here's
as
a fun
key-
game.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, totally fun. The most important defensive player, rather, on the greatest,
and
dynasty
not
or
only
greatest of all
important
time.
defensive player, like an important like
Oh yeah, offensive
playmaker,
cog, like the
offensive.
hub of
Yeah, like
totally.
I'd be stunned if he doesn't go in.
So here's the question I have for everyone in our audience and also you guys: how many points does Draymond Green average career?
You saying currently or saying when it's all said
Career.
and done?
All
what's that
time,
be?
all time. His career points per
Um,
game average.
8.
I mean, he's king of the triple singles, so I got to stay in the singles too and say 9.
It is 8.7.
Woo!
Wow, look at us.
That's well done. Well, I guess you
Man,
get it
nailed
because
it.
it's closer to you, but
So his career stat line is like Ben Simmons this year. That's crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I will add. We have one bonus. Who done it? Well, it's really a who didn't do it. Who is not a Pro Bowl quarterback in the AFC? Your choices are
Oh,
Derek
wow.
Carr,
This is a tough
Trevor
one.
Lawrence, Russell Wilson, and Snoop Huntley.
yeah.
I didn't know that we were calling Tyler Huntley Snoop, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
all
we-
caught up now. Apologies.
We've been
but-
calling him Snoop. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, I've been
I
told.
think I know this one only because, like, I know, like, okay, so Trevor Lawrence has to be legit, right? Derek Carr and Tyler Huntley, not obvious, right, would be a joke if they did make it a little, but it would be a huge joke if Russell Wilson made it. Given all of the ridiculousness of the beginning of the season, the terrible offense, scoring 3 points a game, like it would be absolutely insane. We would have heard about it if Russell Wilson had made the Pro Bowl. So I think Tyler Huntley is in and Russell Wilson is not.
You're right. I believe.
Totally forgot that Russell Wilson is obviously the wrong answer.
Yeah.
Or the right answer because it is the wrong answer.
He is the one who didn't done it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that it's more shocking because Tyler Huntley is in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Like there used to be a handful of names that said, wow, the Pro Bowl doesn't mean anything. Everybody. Tyler Huntley is the top of that list now. Is he not?
Derek Carr isn't on a team and he's in the Pro Bowl, apparently. Is the thing
For the
I'm
fourth
learning.
time. Yeah. I mean, guys just don't go. I know
Derek
Josh
Carr,
Allen.
Hall of Famer?
Hell no.
Did they just call Derek Carr because they're like, it's in Vegas, he's probably there.
Save some money on travel.
Yeah, expense account. Probably smaller for Derek Carr. I just realized that the whodunit silhouette resembles what I imagine Izzy resembled in that story about his eardrums exploding.
Oh my
Put it back
gosh,
up there.
that's the
Look,
worst pain I've ever been in
exactly.
my
I mean,
life.
just look. Izzy, you have a flat top in that one. Kind of.
What a crazy doctor. What kind of a doctor doesn't tell you to take anti-inflammatories?
Yeah, that. See, that's just like, ugh, young Izzy on the couch. Yeah, you should sue that doctor.
It's a little late. Statute limitations.
I didn't miss any pay, so I don't know what I could sue him for.
Anguish. Pain.
I don't know. The Gators made it to the Final
Malpractice.
Four. I was fine.
Or sue Antonio Alfonseca.
Ooh.
I would love that.